Get it, Howard. That bass sounds so good. My guest today is a long-awaited episode with the tremendous, the talented, the voice, Mr. Howard Cloud. It was awesome picking his brain, getting into how he started playing the bass, how that led to traveling and meeting his wife in the Caribbean, and eventually working in broadcasting for a couple years, having his own music show. We also get into a little bit of his creative endeavors, which is what you heard at the beginning of this episode, a song of his titled Return from La Bajada. And at the end of this episode, we'll listen to that song in its entirety. I loved having Mr. Howard Cloud on the podcast, and I know you're going to enjoy it. So sit back and turn up this episode of Art Talk Music. Mr. Howard Cloud, what's happening, man? Thank you for being here.
What's going on? Oh, man. It's a pleasure, man.
Seriously,
it's great
man.
that you're doing like something like this in Albuquerque.
Man, thank you. And it's such an honor to have you, the legend, here, man.
I appreciate that.
I used to call grandmas all the time and hear your voices. You say, welcome to grandma's. Bush guitars for 3 years. Like, goddamn, man.
Yeah, man.
And as I got to, play more gigs and get to know you more, you eventually let me know that you have, of course, as that gig was upon itself, you have a career within broadcasting.
Sure.
And did that when you were in the Caribbean for a little while, right?
Correct. I moved from New York to the Virgin Islands. Moved to St. Thomas. Actually, I visited St. Thomas, or I toured, did a little mini Caribbean tour with Norma Connors and in the Starship Orchestra. Mary
What
Meadows.
year was that? When was that?
Man, that was in 83.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Back in the day.
Wow.
So I went to St. Thomas and, I met my wife there at the time and, did that deal. And then once I returned to live in St. Croix. And then from there, I worked at an AM station, which I really learned so much about the culture and the music. Then from there, I did an urban. I was a radio personality, FM urban, and then I was a PD for a guy who owned 5 radio stations.
What's a PD?
And so, I did production.
Yeah.
It's 2 things when you say PD: program director and production director.
Got you.
Yeah, and then I had my own show called Shades of Jazz.
Oh, snap.
On Sunday mornings. Oh man,
wow,
it was great. Yeah.
So do you miss that? How many years ago? Like, when did you stop doing that? Around what time? In the 90s?
Yeah. Well, I moved here in 2001, so I did radio all the way up to
through the 90s. Then
correct.
Yeah. Like,
correct.
How long? How many years? Would you say 15, 16 years in the business?
Yeah, around 10, 12 years in that.
Gotcha.
I worked, my very, very first radio station I worked for was called In Touch Broadcasting, where I did a lot of reading. So I kind of got my reading chops together, and it was a radio station for the visually impaired. So I would get up on Sunday, get up early on Sunday mornings, go in and record for 2 hours. And then they would broadcast it later on that night. So I got to kind of personality radio, of course, is a little bit different. You really have to kind of develop the personality side of it. Challenging in the beginning, but it's a way to communicate.
Yeah,
getting your point across, and you're dealing with people. So
now, what is the difference when you're doing all these different shows and stuff between broadcasting in the morning and in the nighttime? Because obviously your voice changes, you know what I mean? But you've got a low voice to begin with.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, it's obviously even lower early in the mornings.
Morning is a little bit more, I think, what they call drive time. And my main block at the time was from 2 to 6.
2 p.m. to 6.
No,
2 a.m.?
That's right. 2 in the afternoon.
Got you.
To 6 p.m.
But you would record it then, right? You'd be live, right?
Oh, I know that's live.
Right,
yeah,
right. So that was your main.
That was my main block. I would sit in for my buds in the morning.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was in the Caribbean. With my accent, I have an accent in Caribbean. That's crazy. But they really enjoyed it, and it's just a little bit more high energy, I think, in the morning. And then when I did the Shades of Jazz, I actually did the Shades of Jazz in the afternoon. And
so was the preparation different?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure when you wake up early, you got to warm up a lot more than in the daytime, right? Because you've been talking at least from the 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. show, right?
Right. Show prep is very important because I did news at the top of the hour. So I had to go in. If I did mornings, I get up at 3.
Damn! Ouch! Coming from doing the gigs at 11.
Oh, come on! Yes.
No, I'm sure you were gigging right there, right?
Yes. Yeah, played a lot in the Caribbean.
You had to. I'm sure.
Yeah, but get up in the morning, do show prep in the morning, do news prep, and kind of get an idea of what each hour is going to be, and the same thing in the afternoon. If I'm on at 2, I've got to be at the station no later than 1 o'clock and find out what's happening. And of course,
getting prepared and stuff, right?
Yeah, you got to be topical.
Right.
So what's going on locally, and some things what's going on nationally. So you have to, kind of get that together. But it was all good, man.
Wow.
And the main part of it was the music, man. Soca, calypso, reggae. And when I was doing the urban station, it was, of course, it was an influence from the States as well. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah. Now, I'm sure the pinnacle was probably having that show of your own, right?
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
Well, the owner, the station owner, Cloud. Look, you do what you're going to do. You do your own thing. This is your baby. I'll give you free reign of what you want to do. Now, I had to run 2 hours. I had to do a big band show.
Oh,
yeah. I did a big band show for the first hour, and then I did another show called Sounds of Sinatra.
Wow.
Where the show was already boxed, so all I had to do was just play it and get together. But that was really cool because it set up more of and it was a contemporary jazz, and not just contemporary jazz. I mean, I touched on everything, but I just want to make sure that the vibe was right, and the show was very, very popular.
Wow.
Yeah, I do giveaways. Of course, we had jazz concerts on St. Croix, the St. Croix Jazz Festival. It ran a couple of years until a hurricane just dismantled.
Wow.
Unfortunately, for that particular for that summer, which is and it really didn't get, because of the damage. It really didn't. The damage to the island, it didn't get back on its feet until sometime later. Yeah. And I was off the island. I was off island during that time.
So once you came back to you left there and you came straight to New Mexico?
I left St. Croix
and went straight
and came right here, sight unseen. Okay?
What brought you to New Mexico? Your wife?
Well, we were thinking about our daughter.
Yeah,
getting her acclimated to the States.
She was born in
New York. She was born in New York.
Excuse me. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you meet your wife? Then let's go farther back.
I met my wife on tour.
On tour.
I met my wife on tour. Wow. She was a model at the time, and I was there with Norma Connors, and we reopened like this killer hotel in St. Thomas. Yeah, it was great, man. Wow. It was just fantastic. And we did that show there. I met her. And what happened was, after meeting her, we got together, and she lived in St. Thomas. So I flew back to I flew back to Connecticut.
Got you. Oh, okay. You were living there.
I was living in Connecticut still, and flew back and sold my car, and went on to meet her in St. Thomas. And long story short, we moved back to New York, where we got married.
Wow.
Yeah, we got married in Connecticut. And we've got an anniversary coming up next week.
How many years are you celebrating, man? Tell me.
Man, 32 years, bro.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate that. And so once our daughter was born in New York, we went back to St. Croix. And that's when I got into the radio.
Into the radio business.
Correct. Yeah.
So, all right. So jumping back to Albuquerque. So what was it like getting to, so what was the reason for Albuquerque? Right? We never.
Well, we lived in the Bronx, and there was a gentleman that lived in our apartment complex that was from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah, and he was telling us, you guys would love it. And,
snap, yeah.
You know, I had an opportunity in Philadelphia, a radio opportunity.
To work, yeah.
So, you know, there was a good friend of mine who worked at TV because I used to do TV imaging as well. So I do top of the hour stuff.
Wow.
You know, 15 after 30 and 45 of that, which was nice. That was a great gig too. I did that on the side.
Yeah.
And she really said, you know, man, she really loves Philadelphia, but, you know, give your daughter a chance, because she had her nieces come in to the islands from Philadelphia, and she said, you know, Albuquerque, you should give Albuquerque a shot. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And we talked about it. We talked about Philadelphia and talked about what was happening school wise.
Right.
And so my wife and I called different schools, and we liked what we heard. And she was doing real estate. And she does that right now. She does property management. So once we moved over, she made a couple of calls. Next thing you know, she was off and running.
Wow.
With her gig. And so she moved. By the time our daughter was in elementary school. So
when you moved to Albuquerque.
Yeah, elementary school. She did junior high school and then graduated from El Dorado.
El Dorado High School.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That was Manzano High School, man. So, my high school, being down the street from El Dorado, me and your daughter would be like, "What you talking about? Come on now."
That's right. Yeah.
Manzano, the gentleman that I was telling you I had in here, I was interviewing him earlier today. He graduated a year before me, 2007, from El Dorado High School.
Gotcha.
And he was telling me, he says, "Don't eagles eat monarchs?" And I was like, "Don't get me started, bro."
And she'd tell me, the football games, basketball games, and
wow.
and it's healthy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And did she go to UNM after that, or did she go out of state?
No, man. She got into real estate.
Oh, great.
Osmosis, man. My wife and I was like, wow.
Just like your mama, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful,
and
man.
so now she just moved to Phoenix. So she's been in Phoenix for about a month and a half now and moved out there. And she had a job waiting for her.
Great, man. Good for her. Now, just a daughter, right? No sons or other daughters?
I've got two daughters. One, I have an older daughter in Connecticut.
Got you.
And, my younger here, actually now.
In Arizona.
In Arizona.
Yeah, man.
I got to get used to that.
A year is very recent, man.
That's right.
So tell me, what is the connection with Connecticut that you're from there, or where are you from originally?
I am originally from Connecticut, Southern Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut.
Stanford, Connecticut.
Yeah. So I had, buds in New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a part of my musical experience.
It's like right there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. You get in the car and you'll be in Westchester.
Yes.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my great sculptor friends lives in Westchester, and he's always like, "Come out to the studio." He's an Italian guy. "Come on, my friend. Come to the studio."
Yeah.
I need to go up there, man.
And then on the other side, going north, New Haven, Connecticut, Hartford.
Yeah.
Were my stomping grounds as well, playing and got buddies up there, and it was great, man.
It's awesome.
Just a great experience.
Yeah.
So I got a little tri-state area. Didn't get a chance to go to New Jersey as much as I did Westchester and in New York, but
I've only really been over to the Cherry Hill area,
right.
which is kind of a nicer part. Just kind of over the way from Philly. That's why.
Right.
That's where we always stay when we go to Philadelphia. I'm actually going to Philadelphia this next week. I'll be going there for the International Sculpture Conference.
Nice.
With my father and my brother, but yeah, man. So when you came to Albuquerque, did you jump into the music scene right away? What was that like? I mean, that was in the 90s, you said?
Yeah. Well,
2001?
I came here in 2001. Wow. We came here summer of 2001.
Right after Y2K. Right after Y2K.
And then a couple months later, 9/11, man.
Wow.
Which...
Yes.
My wife and I had to sit down, man, and it's like, wow. What an impact of, just months and coming back, and, it was something else, man. And of course, for everybody.
Yeah.
So, but the first musician that was Arnaldo Acosta.
Wow, really? Oh, you're right, my friend. Arnaldo Acosta, man. That's he does this badass movement with his hands that makes it sound like a percussion.
Yes.
It is a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
How'd you meet him? Now, what was that like? What gig were y'all on?
I met him. Actually, I saw him play first.
Okay.
And played with Frank Lito.
Oh wow, Frank Lido's Pandemonium.
That's the deal.
That's awesome.
And
Wow.
I met after the gig. I met Gabe, a bass player. And I can't think of Gabe's.
You're talking about young Gabe?
Not young Gabe.
You're talking about older Gabe.
Older Gabe. So yeah, he great player too, man. I know he moved to Boston.
Okay.
I think not too long ago. So that was an opening for a bassist there. So that's how I got into that. So I've been playing with Frank since like 2002, 2003.
Awesome.
Yeah, I did the New Mexico Jazz Workshop, and of course played with the Pandemonium thing.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So what did you start working as? I mean, you didn't continue on with the broadcasting thing when you came?
I didn't, man. I tried to.
And what was it like to hang that
get
up?
a few things here, but it was, of course, the market's a little bit different here.
Yeah.
You know.
Like the market isn't like there's not much market that pays. It's a lot of freebie stuff, or what do you mean?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, music-wise.
Yeah.
Culturally. Music was totally different.
Yeah.
Even from working in New York a little bit and working in the Caribbean. So I can't think of the jazz station at the time, but everybody was kind of had the musicians,
on lock.
On lockdown. Yeah, pretty much. And I get it.
They were like lifers.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
like
Absolutely.
That's how they treated the situation and incomers and yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, but I did continue some stuff on voiceover work.
Aha.
Yeah. So I was contracted for about almost 2 years with Boeing, SVS.
Wow.
Over at I-25 Way. So, I did some stuff for them as well. And then some other stuff for the New Mexico Jazz Workshop and just a few other commercials. And it's all good. But I will say this. Once I get finished with school, because I'm studying online.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn that around and get back into
broadcasting yourself.
Yes, yeah, more voiceover though.
Yeah,
more voiceover stuff, and it's really about a time thing.
Now, when you do that kind of work, I'm sure back in the day it was a lot different. Even when you first came over and started doing some of that broadcast work, and especially when you get commissioned to do it, because sometimes people just have the budget, have the studio. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, though, because of the age of the internet, I mean, obviously, as we're sitting here right now in my garage, in the Mark Maron style, recording with just the audio interface and some microphones and the setup right like this.
That's what's happening.
And that is that what the situation is looking like moving forward for you? I mean, the voiceover situation.
Oh yeah.
So you're just working from your home and just
that's exactly
getting emails, getting collaborations, and sending off.
All. You send it off. I mean, things have changed quite a bit. Technology is, and I can see right here in the studio. It's great, man. It's great that you have this, and you see how very easy it is.
It's simple.
To go ahead
Incredibly
and get
simple,
everything together, and you're off and running. Of course, you got to network and do your thing.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not all about having that deep voice and everything and doing all that and going.
But that does a lot.
It does help. But you got to do your work.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of guys who
sound
just like you.
Yeah, that's
out there.
Yes, it's very true, man.
Yeah,
I think the other thing is what you're doing with it too, right? It's like at least not to say what you're doing with it as a broadcaster, but at least thinking about my personal situation. We always get egotistical and think about ourselves, but thinking about myself and what I'm doing here, it's more of an opportunity to really get out everyone's story. And from the catalyst of being in high school and hearing Jazz of Enchantment, which I don't know if you remember or not, but was a KUNM series, I believe initially put on by Paul Ingalls and a couple other broadcast people working at KUNM at that time. And they basically interviewed, I don't know, maybe about 25 or so jazz musicians from around Albuquerque and New Mexico that are deeply connected with the scene.
Yeah.
And it just opened my eyes to think about these musicians and get this portrait, this silhouette drawn of them through this audio interview, which was just a 2 CD compilation of little snippets of the interviews. But it made me want to get into that from then. And then I listen to podcasting now, and then I think about what can we do? And I mean, living in a place like Albuquerque, it's like, you don't have to live nowadays in New York or in Los Angeles to make it and to do it. It's like with the age of the internet, I can be here with my setup doing these interviews. And then when I get to travel, go do that with my friends in Los Angeles or in New York or Philadelphia and get to broadcast them to the world.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be anywhere, right?
And that's progress. That's technology.
Yeah.
Believe me, I saw the big dinosaur boards, seeing how everything is
smaller,
slowly got smaller, thinner,
more digital. Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to really appreciate that, and you bring your skills to the table. You bring those skills to the table as the time you change with the times, and it's nice. And I thought about that today with you being in Albuquerque. Back in the day, you go to California, you go to Chicago, you go to New York to make your mark
to do it
and these things. And as far as radio is concerned too, because you'd had to be in that market.
Yep.
So if something popped, you have to be ready to go ahead and do it. And it's always just like anything, just like with music. If you're there, you just get in the car or do wherever you have to do and get to the spot within an hour.
Yep.
And you're ready to go. So I understand that point, which is a great point.
I definitely am grateful for the opportunity to do these things because of the DIY world.
Yeah.
So I was happy to hear that you kind of sort of as a musician took a little hiatus a couple of years ago.
That's right.
To focus on your education.
Correct.
And I admire that because I definitely look forward to going back and continuing my education later in life.
Right.
I only got my undergraduate, but I want to continue on and get more things. But later in life, because I know that going out and experiencing those things and doing the things I want to do now is the time to do them.
Sure.
But coming back to an education, you're also able to come with much more, hopefully, open eyes or just a different perspective that allows you to get at it and be more of a sponge. So tell me about what was that like?
Well, what I did was, and this is one of the things in 2010.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was on my way to a gig in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And my car hits black ice.
Oh,
and
snap.
I end up in a rollover accident. Right?
Shit.
So that was snap. That snapped me out of a lot of things. Out of just that, get in the car, go to the thing, go to the gig, back and forth gig. You know how that goes.
Working, yeah, hustling.
We're home practicing. We're getting ready for the gig, and that was doing that for a long time.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
So that really, brought a lot of things to light.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I sat down and, talked it up with my family, and I decided that I wanted to go ahead and kind of concentrate more on the education side of things, because it's always been in my life on the private thing.
Yes.
I had private students and one-on-ones and that. So I enrolled at C&M in the teacher education curriculum.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, it was over, man. I'm walking down, cap and gown, and got everything. But just as far as that particular story, once I got into the school system, because, a lot of my mentors told me that, teaching is going to be in my future. And I was like, oh man, come on! I'm playing. I'm on the road. That's what's happening.
Right.
And your calling, man. Even as a musician.
Yes, sir.
You'll understand a little bit more of your calling the longer you play, the longer your experience, of course, it's about maturity. But my first gig in elementary school in Turquoise Trail in Santa Fe was just amazing.
Wow.
It really was.
Huh.
And I decided to continue that experience. So I enrolled musically at Berkeley School of Music.
Wow.
So it'll be 2 years for the online Berkeley course.
And that's going to be specialized in education, or what is that?
Well, this is what they call interdisciplinary studies.
Aha.
So basically, the bottom line is you design your own degree.
Oh, that's sick. Okay, man. Right.
So, I've done the copyright, music business.
Yes. Yes, man. I was just having conversations and podcasts about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's awesome to educate yourself with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm
sure you've dealt with it before, but to really take classes and put your hands on and understand the lingo now, because that stuff changes every year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's talking to professors, and of course they challenge you.
Yeah.
Copyright law.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. They put you in different situations, and you've got to write about that. And what if you're in this situation X, Y, and Z, what's happening with copyright? You and I write a particular song.
Right.
Let's one of the main things that I've learned is that you want to make sure you get percentages,
the correct percentage, man. And
before you record, before you get that done.
You got to get it all understood and corrected. Say, hey, bro, just so we're all good. It's like I'm gonna take 50 because I got the publishing, and then 25 or 25. So
correct.
Or whatever, because it's actually publishing is separate. So I'm gonna get 50 and 25 of this. So actually, I'm getting 75, and you guys are getting 13 point and 13. Whatever it is.
Yeah, get those percentages, because that's the bottom line.
Line that up, right?
Once you record that song,
yes.
Takes off, it does whatever it's done. Everything's already lined up, so there'll be no,
nothing, none of that. Right. I didn't even know this, but recently, and Ryan Montagna, my roommate, was the one that taught me about this. This was within the past couple of years, I should say. But when you have a track that says featuring featuring Steve Lance, featuring Howard Cloud, featuring whoever, that automatically means that those percentages are divvied up 50-50 between the artist that put that track out and whoever they're featuring. And that was interesting to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be like, oh, really? So that all that money you made was half and half with this person? It was like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
Just by getting a feature on there, And of course, you're paying for that person's name to carry, and so there is an exchange there, and I understand that. But, but yeah.
And it's just something to really, and I would say that to anybody listening to this, any of the younger cats that are doing that, and that's, that publishing copyright thing is always that little, because we're in our room hours, getting those scales together, getting those melodies
just practicing,
together.
just worrying about that.
That's right.
Yep.
Once you come out of that and you start writing and
you hear
collaborations.
You hear those words and you hear BMI ASCAP, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't understand? You don't know what those are? Go Google that.
Right.
Because you ought to know. We need to know. Yeah. We need to educate ourselves. Yeah. So what? How far along are you in the Berkeley? You almost...
I'm coming around the corner.
All right.
Because they Berkeley, they want you to take a term off. Which, I did last year. I did straight through. So I did all the terms, including the summer. And man, I just took the summer off. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I understand what you mean.
Fried, huh? What was that like? Just too much, man, huh?
Well, just like anything, it's deadlines.
Yes.
You deal with deadlines.
And
of course, even tonight I've got some.
Causes of a lot of ulcers and stress and hair loss.
But, a lot of fun.
Yes.
The professors are very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm coming around the bend, so I'm looking probably about another year and a half before it's degree time. I'm doing a harmony and composition course right now. So,
wow, man.
Yeah, it fills in the gaps, because as a player, I just didn't. My buddies were out going to Berkeley's and to the Juilliards and getting that education. But for me, it was just, as they come up, like I talked to this guy, and he's it's Phonograph University, man.
Phonograph University is one of the deepest.
Yes. And for me, of course.
That's eventually the one that John, of course, majored in. John Lance does. Because he went to one, dropped out, went to another, dropped out, went to another, dropped out. But he, definitely majored in that phonograph, or at least for us, because it was CDs.
That's right.
But no longer CDs now.
No longer CDs. It's a whole nother trip. Yeah. But that's how I I studied with Jerry Jamont.
So all right, so hold on. So we got to get into this, because now let's dig deep into the player side of Mr. Howard Cloud.
Okay.
You're known, of course, and I've always known and heard about you for many years as the bass player. And so, how did you start playing bass? Where did that come in? Are you from a musical family?
No.
Where did music come from? Where did you first start playing the bass or get interested in that?
Well, my mom enrolled me in music on Saturdays, man, in music courses. I mean, I just had a knack for it. My dad, did play some saxophone. Yeah, he's a tenor player.
Nice.
But, just did his thing. And
from time to time, or
from time to time. From time to time. So if there was any, just some natural vibe, I definitely got it from him.
Yes.
But Saturday mornings and I started drums first. Percussion was my first thing.
How old? Around?
Probably started around 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was into it, man.
Wow.
Really enjoyed listening to it. My mom's vinyl collection, big band, most of the jazz things, most of the jazz of the 50s, the Miles, Herbie Hancock, who was kind of my bridge. There's an album called Fat Albert Rotunda.
Say it again.
Fat Albert Rotunda.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fat Albert Rotunda.
And that some of the melodies from that. Tell Me a Bedtime Story. Are you hip to that?
I'm not hip to that, man. I'm gonna have to check it out. Really?
Yeah.
We'll write that right.
Yeah. Tell Me a Bedtime Story, man. Amazing melody. Was some of the earlier things that, and then my uncle gave me my first bass. Really? He was playing in the blues thing, and decided to, I moved my grandmother to town a little bit closer to our family, and that was the last I saw an amp and a bass guitar, a Kalamazoo white bass. Come on, man!
Wow, man, no
Silvertone amp.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. I was doing it.
You were in Connecticut, in
Connecticut.
Stanford, or where? What was the town?
In Stanford.
And,
Stanford, Connecticut.
And did you start playing with people right away? Or
started playing, got together with my buddies, in the area.
Yeah.
And, we formed our bands, and I played out,
Yeah.
But one of the crucial parts of my musicianship was I finally started taking music lessons with a guitarist.
With a guitarist?
Correct.
Okay. How far into starting to play bass? A year or two in, or something like that?
Year or two in, correct. Yeah, it was perfect. And his style, Wes Montgomery.
Really?
Yeah, he had that vibe. But he was also a leader of a big band. He had his own big band. So I studied with him, go out to see his big band perform locally. Amazing. Next thing you know, he's giving me all these songs. The Thumb, but by Wes Montgomery, all these little charts, and I'm learning to read. Yeah. I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
And the next thing he knows, that I know that he wanted me to play bass in the big band. That was like doing the Hilton circuit
on electric.
On electric bass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little nervous about that, but it all worked itself out. Because I kind of did the local thing with his, and kind of my first paying gig as well. So asked my mom first, and had to chaperone at 18. I did that at 18 years old.
Dang.
And did that with him for about a year. Then I started stretching out and doing the contemporary thing. Stanley Clarke, the Jaco Pastores thing came in, and we clicked in and moved into that level, and formed a quartet with some buddies of mine from the area, a strong quartet called the Tomorrow Band. Yeah.
The Tomorrow Band.
Tomorrow Band, yeah.
Did you come up with that name? Who came up with that name?
Well, the actual leader of the band came up with that. And a few other things as well. Sunside Band with Marion Meadows, as a matter of fact, was a good buddy of mine in Stanford. Grew up and would see him, and he was one of the first artists in the area to kind of take the leap, man, and get the record deals and take off. Yeah.
Wow.
So
now you kind of hinted at this earlier, but it seems like there wasn't that much of a connection from your education and your schooling with the music. I mean, you played in the big band and stuff like you said.
Yeah.
You took guitar lessons and stuff like that with the guy who ran the big band. But were you playing in high school in any bands or even in college? Did you go to college and do music at all? Nothing.
Not
it was
at
all outside.
It was all outside.
And did you take bass lessons with a bass player after the guy from West?
I did. I studied with a bassist, Phil Bowler. That's when I got into more of the jazz part of things. He was an upright player mainly.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you ever learn? Did you ever shed upright with him?
I did. Yeah, well, he
he
used to bring. Yeah, he brought the upright over, and that was my introduction to upright bass.
Ha.
And man, he was something else, man. He played with Rashan Roland Kirk at the time. Yeah, I saw him play Rashan in this little New York jazz club. But what an experience, you know, what an experience. But Samando Method, introduced me into into the positions and getting everything.
What is the Samando Method?
Samando Method is kind of any bass players that are listening, is your first introduction into kind of like a classical bass, as far as playing, getting your fingering, getting all your positions together, moving up in the positions on your bass, and learning the instrument.
Got you.
Yeah. But then I just, that electric bass was,
it took over,
was my thing. Yeah, so and I spent many hours, man, doing the funk thing in the beginning. The James Brown.
Was it just something you knew that you were serious about?
Yeah.
And your love overtook a lot of stuff,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. It was there was no second thought about
what you were doing.
That. Yeah.
So did you go to college or university after high school, or did you just kind of jump into?
I kind of jumped in and just started playing.
Yes.
Jazz gigs around the area, hitting the road a little bit, and just doing it like that.
Huh.
But hanging around players who, man, I learned from a lot of the older players, but my contemporaries as well. That showed me quite a bit.
So when you moved to, you were working in Connecticut after you graduated. You were on the road, I'm guessing, with a band maybe from Connecticut when you went down to St. Thomas, or what was that? Had you moved already?
When I went to St. Thomas, it was with Norman Connors. So he came and pulled myself and the vocalist from the band that I was in, which was a Tomorrow band, but it kind of morphed into something a little bit different because some of the original players went on to move out of state. And, the band, we got a vocalist because it was all instrumental first. And so we had a reputation in the area.
That's awesome.
It was great. It was just a great experience. And so he pulled myself and the vocalist to form the band. And then we went out to St. Thomas. Yeah.
So 2001 comes around, you're in Albuquerque and you're starting to work a little bit. I know you met Arnaldo.
Yeah, we met Arnaldo.
Who else are you starting to work with around that time? Or, what were the gigs in the early years that you can remember when you were working here?
Well, I still work with Busy McCarroll.
Yeah, sure,
in
man.
Santa Fe. Yeah. And that was one of my earlier gigs. Doing some sessions and just working with blues, doing some blues things, working with Hillary Smith.
Oh, yeah.
I did a stint with her with a band called the Groove Tribe. Yeah.
Was that her band? Who
that was
that?
Yeah. That was with Demi DeSantis.
Oh yeah, my man.
Yeah, man. And that was a funk thing.
A funk thing.
Yeah, that was really funk R&B. You know what was happening there.
Man. Oh yeah.
So
she's got it. I know she had Hip Pocket. That was the band that I remember. Around that time. But I'm sure she's had many transitions or evolutions of the band as it's come to be.
Yeah. So doing that and just working with a few other things. I've worked with John Rangel.
Yeah, man. Monster.
Absolute
monster.
John is just, it was great getting a chance to meet him. And I met him because I did work with for a couple of years with Kathy McGill.
Really? Okay, that's how you guys met. Around the time that he came into town, right? He came in like 2009, 10,
something like
11?
That. Yeah.
I remember he came and was taking some 16th century counterpoint classes from Mr. Sherman or Mr. Herman over at UNM. Yes, sir.
I was telling you about that.
And because he was taking those classes, Glenn Coster asked him at the time, "Hey, would you be down to help out one of the jazz combos?" Glenn never really went down to help out the combos and stuff at that point until he got called out on it more. Now he does it a lot more. But
right.
At that point, he gracefully asked John, and John was up to do it. And Chase Ellison was in the band at that time.
Oh, yes.
Marion Hatch was playing bass. Scott Jacobson was playing saxophone.
Yeah.
This great trumpet player from here, but now living in New York, Luther Wong, was playing trumpet.
Okay.
And John, directed the ship. You know what I mean? And taught me so much about playing. And that following year or 2 years later, something like that, I went to New Orleans. And even before that, I would be working and would just have questions and would just always write him. He's always been a mentor figure for me like that.
Sure.
You know, just someone I can be like, how do you work? How do you keep getting hired with singers? Or, you know, like, how do you deal with all these singers that like have these tunes that you know, but they're in keys that you don't know? He's like, you got to be able to play those keys, bro.
Yeah. And, you know, improvisation with him. And, you know, we talked about something very simple as me changing a bass note. Or on the other side of that, if I hear different harmonies, if I hear him playing different harmonies, stay where I'm at so he can go ahead and do his thing.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to, you've got to shift the music. You know, because you know, when you hear a different chord or you hear a different idea, you want to go ahead and shift.
Move,
but you know, blue collar worker, man. I'm a blue collar worker, so I stay in and hold it down, man.
Yeah. He's definitely someone special, man.
Yeah.
So, so what do you see maybe in the horizon? You maybe see some Cloud Visions albums, you know,
Most
coming into the
Most
picture sometime soon, man.
Most definitely.
What do you think that would be like for yourself, man?
You know, for me, for what's happening and talking to, it's going to be more of, you know, what I'm all about, and you know, again, for a lot of my buddies, because maybe their dads were jazz players, they came off of the jazz. You know, that was their thing. For me, it was more of a funk thing. The jazz thing is a mixture. The Caribbean thing is a mixture. The reggae thing is a mixture.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring a lot of
funk
that
stuff.
Oh yeah, a lot of funk, a lot of contemporary sounds to the table on that.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear that whenever that comes out, my man.
Yeah. So that's just, you know, something for me. Melody is a very important thing for me.
So let's talk about that. What is your songwriting process like? I know it changes every time, but
it does. In the beginning, it's definitely from my bass. Yeah. Now, as far as the transition, I'm sitting down at the piano now and dealing with melody. Like right now, what we're doing in the composition course is they're giving us a piece of film, and you know, we have to write in major, which, you know,
what you're feeling.
It's what you're feeling. Yeah. Basically 8 measures of a melody.
Yeah, man.
Of what's
film
happening.
Scoring. That's beautiful, man. Yeah. Film scoring is like, well, of the things that I wish I would have taken more at the university because, All right.
It's those are some of the things that I'm doing now, and then of course, you know, if something comes to mind, I jot it down and develop it a little bit more. But from right now, it's a combination of now I can sit down at the keyboard with some more confidence. And write from the keyboard. But before then, it was definitely
always just from the bass.
From the bass, chordal things, chordal possibilities.
Did you continue doing the guitar stuff at all from the guy that you were taking the West lessons with, or that was just someone that you?
Well, here's what that. Just to clarify that, he was teaching me bass.
He was a guitar player.
He was a guitar player.
That was teaching me bass.
Correct. Gotcha. So that's what was happening.
Yeah. Over here thinking like, come on, man, does the guitar ever reappear? Come on, man. But So, do you write lyrics at all? Or do lyrics play
not lyrics
a thing for you at all? Right?
Yeah.
So is it a mood thing?
It's a mood thing. Yeah. Like a friend of mine wanted me to write a reggae tune for his children's gospel. Ricky Warren.
Yeah, I know Ricky. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And so we got together. Great collaboration.
Okay.
That's my bud.
Yeah,
we did something a year out at more of a casino band thing down at Route 66 for a year and a half.
Got you.
With a band, kind of a house band thing. And his lyric, you know, he just writes amazing lyrics. So I introduced the melody and the idea to him, and we worked, you know, maybe about a week on it. Chordal thing. I mean, I had the chordal thing movement, what was happening in different sections.
Yeah.
And he wrote words to it, man, and it was amazing. And they do it every year now.
Wow, man.
Yeah. They
So you've collaborated a lot with.
Yeah. And that's very important.
That's beautiful. It
Collaboration
is,
for me, you know, one of the things I had to learn to do was sit down and listen. Even from a broadcasting point of view. listening is such an important aspect of anything. But since we're talking about music, it was, I always listen and then I grab my instrument. If I hear something I like, I grab my instrument, see if I can cop what's happening.
Yeah.
There's a book out by Rand Blake, and I've got to get the title. As a matter of fact, it's in my car.
Aha!
It's something about the ear. It's the ear.
Is it Rand Blake or is it Ron Blake, the saxophonist? Different guy.
No, different
Rand
guy.
Blake.
Rand, R-A-N Blake, keyboard player.
Interesting.
Yeah. A primacy ear, something like that.
Okay.
And I somebody from Berkeley recommended it, recommended the book. And, it's something, man, that, again, what's going on, man. I mean, we sit and listen to, your favorite guitarist, drummer, however that situation is.
Sure.
And to be better musicians, we're always ready to grab that instrument.
Yes.
But to sit down and really listen to a particular tune, a couple of times is very important. And at the stage, in my life where I'm in, as far as music is concerned, that's something that I'm getting used to.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I think as you're saying it, I definitely recognize how much better things go when you listen musically, in relationships, in life, and even just in those moments when you see people. Yeah. I mean, people are waiting to get a smile back. You know what I'm saying? And you just listen to yourself and realize that there is that notion in your head of that person. If you smile at that person, they're going to smile back at you. Yeah. And you don't listen, then you move on. Then you can just, miss that moment of getting a smile back and getting a nice, a moment or, it's definitely changed a lot, man. And a lot of people, as I ask them some of the questions that I ask people that I'm going to ask you in a little bit, but, listen is always an answer and something that when it comes up, I'm just like, yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
And it really is. I mean, what we're doing right now, and it was something that I did learn in broadcasting. I come in, it's just this one mic.
Yeah, man.
But when I open when I open it up, it's going out to thousands of people.
Thousands of people, that's right, man. Around the world.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interviewing process as well.
Yes, yeah. The interviewing process is something I've always loved doing, but now I'm learning more and more about it. I had one of the early guests that I had on the podcast was a guy who was a prolific interviewer, man. He's interviewed over like 3,500 different artists, like, big name to small name people, but that 10,000 hour mark, I'm sure he blasted past that a long time ago of how many sitting down interview things he's done. And that was his lesson to me, was like his words of advice to me after we got off air. Sure. Was just like, were two things, but the biggest thing that he told me was like, listen, like just allow them to go and don't get in their way. And even as you said it earlier, I was thinking like, man, I gotta stop, affirming everything and just let him talk and tell the story because, and it's fine. But at the same time, as a listener, for me hearing, I'm like, I wish that person was more in the moment and just listening like me, because then I, as the listener, can be taken on that journey as opposed to hearing, every moment, because some way it's like your ego saying, I have to say something. I have to, I have to affirm with him, or I have to, show my ego by saying, oh, I've had that happen to me too. Or, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, those are certain things we grow and learn. But something, as I brought up earlier, that I'm doing is asking questions that are similar to questions Mr. Art Farmer asked some of his contemporaries in this anecdotal book that he put out called Notes and Tones, I believe it's called. And the question is, what does jazz mean to you? Or what does jazz mean in your life? Not necessarily having you define it for me, but what does it mean in your life?
As far as I'm concerned, jazz is life, man. You know what I mean? Huh. As a younger player, the elders, that's jazz. I mean, it is a sound. I was floored by what was happening from when I was hurt, and how I can get to that level as far as that's concerned. to me, jazz is 360 degrees. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We play music, but there's so many. There's muses. There's people that inspire you.
Yeah.
To me, that's jazz. To me, when I look across and see you on what's happening, because Dizzy Gillespie said, you keep your mind in one place and your hands in another. I never forgot that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Keep your mind in one place.
Keep your mind in one place and hands in another. Wow. So, in saying that, because he told me that at a birthday party. I played this place called Toad's Place.
Yeah.
And he told not just me, but the group of musicians. Whoa. So what that really means is there's going to come a time where you listen to the elders. Yeah. In the very beginning, and then there's that midway point where the younger players are listening to you and what's happening, and then there comes the point where you really enjoy listening, as far as I'm concerned, to the younger players. This is that transition, and to know that the music is going to be in good hands. To me, that's a part of a jazz, other than the performance, the chords, the harmony. It's good to know. I see young Art Metters. I listen to him, and when I first moved here, younger player, getting it together.
Yeah.
Now, he's a monster.
Yeah, man.
He's a monster.
He's a beast.
Now. Oh, come on, man.
He's of the few musical geniuses I know in my life that can pick up the drums, pick up the guitar, pick up the keys, and do a little bit of everything. And it's just a profound thing. Yeah. It's just like, oh my goodness, man, this guy hears music on a totally different level and wavelength and way that I do and can imagine, But
to me, that is a part of and if you had to label it, that's jazz. And again, it's the whole. It's my family. That's very, very important. My experiences. When you step up to the stage, you're bringing all that to and the listener.
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah.
My eyes are as I'm playing, but I'm looking to see what type
what's
of
happening.
What's happening.
Yeah. To respond.
Yeah. So I've I've seen that and read about that question so many times, and that's the closest I can come to.
The marvelous answer, man. And now, the other question I love asking people is, where do you see Howard Cloud in 10 years? And even if you don't see him, where would you like to see him in 10 years?
To me, I see myself still with the younger players. I think education, taking on a little bit more of composition, and being really comfortable with that.
Yes.
And getting my music out that way. And that's pretty much it. I think the voiceover thing will come in, but it's mainly listening to you guys, keeping an eye, following your careers, and collaborating.
Yes.
Which I think is very important.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That brings different colors, man. It's my experience, your experiences. I think that's an important thing, but I see myself with the younger players, education, and getting my music out there finally,
and hopefully having the Cloud Visions Part 1. I don't know. I'm just throwing a title out Cloud there for Visions, the album. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh man.
Yeah. So man, I'm glad you're doing this, man.
Thank you, bro.
This is very nice.
Man. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to be doing it, and awesome to have amazing guests like yourself.
Oh, man, I appreciate that.
A lot of my gracious friends that come on, and even if it's promoting an album, like I was telling you about, or just talking, man, it's great to get people's stories out there and get a conversation going.
Yeah.
Eventually, of course, as you can see and as you might observe, this all this stuff is pre-recorded, but I look forward to moving forward to be able to do it all live.
Right.
So that wherever I'm at, however I'm situated, I can tune in and tune everyone else in around the world to converse and talk about whatever's happening musically today.
Yeah.
Why? Because, like I've always felt some sense of responsibility as you were talking about way earlier of finding out, as the years move on and as you keep playing what your journey is.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of things have come up, but certainly I felt a responsibility to try and act as much as I can like a light, not like a light of an example, but like a light in some way to help bring awareness to what all of us are doing.
Yeah.
And, years ago I had talked to even Tom Koronic about trying to make a website that was like what the Alibi Music Classified was, but for the whole city.
Sure.
For all different scenes and for everyone and connecting everything.
Yeah.
And I still think about doing that. I've had conversations with musicians about that, but at least to get it started, I definitely know this podcast is something I've had on the back burner and on, my to-do list for way too long. And yeah, man. One final question, if I may. I wonder, as you recommend to young bassists coming up, or even bassists that have been playing a couple of years and stuff, who are who are some of the people that really changed your life as a bass player, and you would recommend for people to check out and get into?
Yeah, I'm 64 years old, man. So
64,
6'4", man.
Sir.
So there were a lot of the music, the Motown stuff, the James Jamersons. I always had the rock element in my life as well.
Which rock element? Yeah,
well, Jimi Hendrix. I listen to Deep Purple. I listen to Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I'm dating myself a little bit. What? Who? Where?
Yeah.
And then as things as I got, James Brown. Key for me. Parliament Funkadelic. Got into that thing. Then the man came, of course, Stanley Clarke, Jaco Pastorius, who just, man, I was floored. I was fortunate enough to see him, and if you're a bass player, even now, even playing, I would recommend that to his music, composition wise as well, to anyone. Now on the string bass side. Charles Mingus,
yes.
Ray Brown, the heavies. They were definitely on the list as well. And moving up a little bit, Christian McBride, who I saw at the Apples. Oh man,
yeah.
Yeah. But the key is to just get as much of that as you possibly can. Gary Willis. You know what I mean?
I don't know who Gary Willis is. Hold on, tell me about that. So first bass player, I don't know. I'm gonna write that name down.
Yeah. Get him. He was here. He was in Santa Fe. He lived in Santa Fe. For a while. Yeah,
seriously?
Get him. Yeah. Get him, and he's just Scott Henderson. Have you ever heard Scott Henderson?
The guitar player?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely know that name. I've heard that. Yeah. They're connected.
Well,
is that
correct?
I got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So I've heard him through Scott Henderson's music.
Correct.
I got to revisit Scott Henderson, but yes, I've definitely had people give me, I think, Scott Henderson's albums or something.
Yeah. But it's listen to as many basses as you possibly can, and always remember. I studied with Jerry Jermont, and that's where I got that from, man. The blue collar worker.
I love that line, man.
You learn what your role is in the scheme of things, as far as the band is concerned. And for me, out of the Marcus Millers and the Victor Wootens, we all came up in the same era. I remember Marcus, listened to the first hearing Marcus. He was just amazing. And I saw him with the Jamaica Boys with like Lenny White and Michael Urbaniak.
Yeah.
And again, these are probably some names some of the younger players don't know anything.
They'll have to
about.
go Google, but
That's
please
right.
go Google that shit. Come on, young boys. Excuse me for cursing so much. I don't excuse myself. This podcast curses a lot, but
But they're the younger players out there that I listen to.
Yeah.
That are definitely on the scene. But those are some of the
That's a great line of
cast
people, man.
characters,
I'm gonna do some
that
research my
influenced me.
work myself because I'm an aspiring young bassist myself too, man.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
I've bought and sold 2 basses. I should tell you myself.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about the sold part, but definitely happy about the fact that I bought them and messed around with them for a while, and
Yeah.
I've owned a couple different basses. And
You got a
had basses
Fender in
my
here
own,
somewhere?
You know, I had a couple Fenders. That's what I'm saying, man. Bought and sold. It was like, as a musician, everything has a price tag on it. So when you're like, I'm hungry, you're like, what can go?
Yeah, I just bought a 1995 Fender 5-string jazz bass.
Oh.
Passive, no batteries. Man.
Really?
Oh yeah, and I've been playing that for the last 2 months, man.
Oh, what color?
It is a tobacco burst. Inline, and it has the inline tuners. So the Fender basses have the 4 and 1, but this is the
all 5.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there something with attention in that philosophy or something, or what's different? Do you think about that?
No, I just like
That
I just like that headstock design.
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah. And I've had the 4+1s, but it's one of those things where you go on in and you look up and you see it there, and
You're like,
you ask about it.
Something's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it was gone.
It's like the Jimi Hendrix headstock where it's upside down. It's a left-handed.
That's
headstock.
right. That's right.
That's a cool look.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I love it, my man. It's great to converse and catch up and hear a little bit of your story and get into this stuff, man. I definitely look forward to doing this again. And
and I really appreciate it, man.
Oh,
thanks
come
for
on,
inviting
man.
me. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, and I'm gonna see about if it's all right with you. Try and get maybe some tracks of yours to maybe fill up the end of this or something like that.
Yeah,
but
that's fine, man.
It's wonderful to get to hang with you, and I look forward to the next time we get to play a gig.
I appreciate that, man.
Let's definitely make that happen, my man. All right.
Of course.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Howard.
All the best, man.
Yes.
Peace.
That was the episode. Thank you so much for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we're going to play that song in its entirety. This is Mr. Howard Cloud, Mr. John Rangel, and Mr. Jesse Montijo. This song is called Return from La Bajada.